Welcome to the deep dive. Tonight, we're doing something a bit different. We aren't dissecting, complex theories or white papers. Instead, we're sharing 3 true stories. Accounts that really show how quickly a night that's supposed to be fun, like Halloween, can just curdle into stark terror. We've gathered these really harrowing narratives, stories of survival from people who found out the hard way that sometimes, on Halloween, the most disturbing threats, they're not ghosts or monsters in a haunted house. They're people who are just watching, calculating, waiting.
And these stories, they give us a chance for a different kind of analysis, really. A look into pure predatory behavior. We're going to examine how things like preparation, just being aware of your surroundings, and honestly, raw instinct, how those became the only things that saved these individuals from really targeted attacks.
Okay, let's get into the first one. This starts back in 2023. It's a story from a community worker. He was 22 at the time. He'd had a really long day, apparently, but agreed to take his sister, Savannah, she's 15, and his nephew, Jackson, who was 11, trick-or-treating. They were in a pretty busy neighborhood, lots of people out. But the weirdness didn't start until they were heading back to the car. They'd moved into a quieter part of the neighborhood, less light, and that's when he looked across the street and saw something that just didn't fit.
Okay, so what was it? What did he see? The small details often matter most here.
Right. He saw a person dressed all in black, wearing a hooded cloak, a full mask, just standing totally still in someone's yard, a yard with no porch light on. And he said he immediately got that feeling, that feeling of being watched, targeted. Now, he was carrying a backpack and he had his Glock in it. His sister, Savannah, she knew he had it. So he quietly tells the kids, okay, there's a suspicious person over there across the yard. Look, but don't stare.
Right. Trying to keep them aware, but not panicked.
Exactly. Jackson, the nephew, he's oblivious, just excited about candy. But Savannah, she got worried.
And that's the pivot point, isn't it? The figure starts as just unsettlingly out of place. Part of the Halloween scenery, maybe. But what's really striking is how fast that whole atmosphere shifts when that observer stops being stationary and actually starts to move.
Yeah, exactly. Because as they kept walking toward the car, he heard that sound. The sound that just snaps you right out of the Halloween fun mood. Heavy footsteps, like boots hitting the concrete, coming up fast behind them.
Yeah.
He turns around, and now he gets a clear look at the person. The cloak, gone. Now they're wearing a tactical vest, tactical boots, black pants tucked into the boots, and a full, spandex face mask. This wasn't costume anymore. This was gear.
Serious gear.
His first thought, just ice cold. They're armed. He whispered urgently to the kids, do not stop walking. Do not look back. That person is following us right now.
That must have been absolutely terrifying to go from this almost decorative figure, part of the night's spooky aesthetic, to suddenly being pursued by someone who looks militarized. It really suggests this was never just passive observation. It feels like hunting.
It totally felt like hunting. And the whole thing peaked right as they reached their car. The figure was still coming, closing the distance. So the narrator pulls out his Glock, points it right at the person, and demands, what's going on? Who are you? And that's when the person slowly raises their hands and takes off the mask. It was a woman. Looked like she was in her 30s.
A woman, okay. But what explanation could she possibly have for that gear, that approach?
Well, her explanation, it was just bizarre, completely unbelievable. She claims she's an undercover cop, says she's investigating a break-in nearby, which, spoiler, didn't happen. And get this, she says his looking at her, funny, made her think he was the intruder.
Wait, hold on. An undercover officer in a tactical vest and boots, and who was wearing a cloak just moments before. That makes zero sense. That specific, almost ridiculous excuse.
Yeah.
What does that tell you about her strategy right then?
It tells me she was scrambling, trying desperately to regain control of the situation, and she immediately tries to intimidate him, threatens him, says he needs to lower the weapon right now or risk being arrested for threatening an officer. But he knew it was a lie. I mean, why the tactical gear undercover? Why the cloak initially? And why was she standing in that dark yard facing away from the house she supposedly thought was being broken into? None of it added up.
Right. The inconsistencies just scream deception.
He didn't really get any answers.
Yeah.
Just this really chilling, nasty smile from her. She looks right at him and says, and this is verbatim, if you didn't have that gun, this night would have ended a hell of a lot different for you.
Oh, okay. That's a direct threat.
A direct threat. And just as she says that, 4 other figures emerge from the shadows. 3 men, 1 more a woman. All of them also in tactical gear. They just start walking towards them. He didn't wait, got the kids in the car, and just drove away. fast.
That phrase she used, combined with the backup appearing instantly, it confirms everything. This wasn't random. It wasn't a solo act. This was like a calculated group operation. They were maybe testing him, testing the environment, and his being armed was the one thing they hadn't planned for.
And here's the part that really seals it, the part that shows they were definitely targeted. He checked later with the neighbor whose yard she was in. No break-in report. Nothing happened. But then, a few days later, he gets an anonymous text message. Just one thing in it. A photo. A photo of his car parked outside his own apartment complex.
Oh, wow. So the surveillance didn't stop that night. They followed him home. They knew where he lived. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a prank. This was personal, planned targeting. And that undercover cop story, that was just a tactic. Pure power play to try and disarm him. Mentally and maybe legally, too.
Absolutely chilling. Just the level of focus on him. It's terrifying. Our next story. It shows that same kind of calculation, that same predatory focus. But this time, it's aimed at a much younger, much more vulnerable target. And in a very remote setting. This one takes place deep in the woods. There's a small, kind of remote family resort, and they're having a Halloween event. Our narrator for this story was only 12 years old at the time. The event sounds fun, hay rides, bonfires, the usual stuff. But he said he started feeling like something was wrong pretty early on during the hayride.
And that setting, remote woods, probably not many people around outside the main event areas, it automatically amps up the potential danger, doesn't it? Isolation is such a key tool for predators.
Exactly. So they're on this torchlit hayride trail. Halfway through, the boy spots a man standing just outside the edge of the torchlight, right by the dark tree line, wearing black jacket, jeans, baseball cap pulled down low, and he's just standing there, motionless, watching the hayride pass. But the boy felt like the man was watching him specifically. And he knew this guy wasn't part of the resort staff, not one of the actors, just there.
Just observing, waiting.
And then later, he saw him again. The narrator and his friend Ryan were near the snack table. And maybe 30 feet away, near the trees again, there's the same man, standing alone, still watching them. His friend Ryan kind of brushed off, said, "No, it's probably just some dad."
Yeah.
But our narrator, he had this gut feeling this guy didn't belong, he didn't fit.
Trusting that instinct, especially as a kid, that's crucial.
Yeah. Then later that night, maybe around 9 p.m., the boys did something, well, ill-advised. They wandered off down a dark trail behind the cabins, went maybe 200 feet in, past this faded private property sign.
And right there, that's the moment of peak vulnerability. They essentially walked away from safety, away from the lights and the crowd, and offered the opportunity.
And that's when they heard it. Not their own footsteps, but heavy, slow, adult footsteps. Coming from deeper down the dark path towards them, the footsteps stopped. And then this man's voice. Calm. Too calm, kind of intimidating. He says, "Hey there, boys. You like candy?"
Oh no, the classic lure.
The man steps into what little light there was. Same jacket, same hat. And he's holding up a Reese's peanut butter cup. He tells them he saw them earlier on the hayride. And then comes the really terrifying part, the bait. He says he has lots more candy back in his cabin.
Okay, see, that's the core of the calculated luring attempt right there. It's not just offering candy, which is kind of expected on Halloween, right? But he connects it to having watched them earlier, "I saw you on the hayride," which creates this false sense of familiarity, maybe makes them feel safer somehow. And the cabin, that offers immediate, guaranteed isolation. It's textbook.
That confirmation, though, that he had been watching them, tracking them, that seemed to be what broke the spell for the boys. They just turned and sprinted, ran as fast as they could back towards the lights of the bonfire. And they heard his heavy footsteps start up again behind them, chasing them for a bit. The police were called. They searched the area. But the man was gone, vanished. And nobody matching his description had checked into the resort. He was never found.
He was a trespasser with a very clear goal. It's horrifying to think what might have happened if they'd hesitated for even a second, if they'd taken that bait.
Yeah, a truly chilling reminder of how easily trust can be twisted, especially on a night like Halloween. Okay, our final story tonight. This one moves away from that kind of surveillance and luring. This focuses squarely on a deliberate, planned invasion, a home invasion. This happened to a guy named Roger. He was 29, home alone. The trick-or-treaters had finished up. It was maybe 10:30 p.m. The neighborhood was dark, quiet. He hears this faint knock at his side door first. He figured, okay, probably just some teens, maybe a final prank, right? So he ignored it.
But there's often a difference you can hear or feel between a random prank and something more deliberate. What changed?
About 15 minutes later, that's when the real alarm bells went off.
Here.
He heard the back door knob. It wasn't being jiggled frantically. It was being turned slowly, cautiously.
Yeah.
Tested. Roger crept into his kitchen, looked out the window.
What did he see?
He saw a man crouched down low by the door, dark clothes. He had one of those cheap plastic Halloween masks on, but it was cracked and pushed up onto his forehead. And in his hand, he was holding a crowbar. He wasn't trying to be subtle about getting in, just deliberate, focused.
Okay, so not hiding the intent at all. It's not. Not at all. Roger immediately dials 911. He grabs the only thing he could think of for defense, a kitchen knife, and hides at the top of his stairs, listening. He hears the man moving around outside, circling the house. Then, the distinct sound of a window screen being pried off, followed moments later by the sound of glass cracking downstairs. From the basement, it sounded like. The really scary part. The guy had to know someone was likely home. It wasn't that late. But he didn't care. He was breaking in anyway.
That lack of concern about occupants,
Yeah.
that's a major red flag. It suggests his goal wasn't just theft. It implies that if he encountered someone, his plan wasn't necessarily to flee, but maybe to subdue them.
Exactly. Thankfully, the police were incredibly fast. Their flashing lights suddenly swept across the blinds. They caught the guy, tackled him just as he was maybe trying to leave a reposition past the driveway. Roger said later his final thought during it all was just the terror of knowing that if the police had been delayed by even 5 minutes, it could have been fatal.
But the truly chilling part wasn't just the crowbar or the broken window. It was what the police found when they searched the guy. It revealed the real scale of his plan. What exactly did that police inventory show about his actual intent?
Yeah, this is where it gets fascinating and deeply disturbing. The contents of his backpack, they elevated this way beyond a simple breaking and entering charge. Yes, they found the crowbar he used, but they also found duct tape, zip ties, a loaded .45 handgun, several kitchen knives, different sizes, and rope.
Wow.
I mean, if you connect those dots, that's not a burglar's toolkit for stealing a TV. That reads like a kidnapping kit, a violence kit. This points strongly towards premeditated violence against a person, not just property crime. And that suspicion was apparently reinforced later when police started looking into possible connections between him and some local missing person cases. The Halloween mask, that was just a convenient, disposable layer of anonymity for a plan that was already deeply sinister and calculated.
It's just awful. So these 3 stories, the tactical watchers who followed their target home, the predator using candy to lure kids in the woods, the invader armed for violence, they all share this one really terrifying common thread, don't they? The real danger wasn't some monster in a costume. It was targeted. It was calculated. It was deliberate human action.
Absolutely. And these narratives really underscore something vital. Your best defense often isn't physical armor, it's that sharp situational awareness. Real danger frequently looks out of place. It doesn't quite fit the scene. It's armed with calculation, not, fake blood and plastic fangs. Trusting that gut feeling, that visceral instinct when something or someone feels wrong, that's probably the single most important survival tool highlighted in all these accounts.
So, as you think about these stories tonight, maybe consider not just the fun kind of fear Halloween brings, the fear of the unknown, but also that deeper, more profound fear, the fear of knowing that maybe, just maybe, you too might already be watched. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into some truly dark shadows. If these stories chilled you, maybe made you think, please do like this, share it, and subscribe to our channel, Horror Docs. We'll have more true accounts that, keep us all looking over our shoulders. Until next time, please stay safe out there.